Welcome, everybody. My name is E.R. Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Charis Circle. Charis Circle is a nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books, and Charis Books is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. We're so excited to be here tonight with Mia Tsai in conversation with Elle Lewis for a celebration of bitter medicine. In this brand new contemporary fantasy, a Chinese immortal and a French elf navigate romance, familial loyalty, and workplace demands. In this debut novel, Taiwanese American author Mia Tsai has created an unforgettable paranormal adventure that is full of humor, passion, and depth. So I'm going to introduce Elle Lewis first. So Elle is an award-winning SFF writer and editor and former publisher at Fireside Magazine. She serves as a founding editor and creator and project manager for the World Fantasy and Hugo Award-winning Fire Literary Magazine. She also serves as the founding director of FireCon and the Ignite Awards, researcher for the also award-winning LeVar Burton Reads podcast, and pays the bills as the awards manager for the Lambda Literary Foundation. She frequently bothers the publishing industry about studies about the treatment and experiences of racially, ethnically marginalized authors in speculative fiction. She is the author of A Ruin of Shadows from Dancing Star Press, and her published short fiction and poetry includes appearances in Fire, Podcastle, Strange Horizons, Anathema, Spec from the Margins, Lightspeed, and Neon Hemlock, among others. She lives in Atlanta on perpetual deadline with her coffee habit, 2 very photogenic kittens, and an impressive Lego build collection. So we're really excited to have LD with us in the house. And of course, the woman of the hour is Mia Tsai, who is a Taiwanese American author of speculative fiction. She lives here in Atlanta, Georgia with her family, and when not writing, is a hype woman for her orchids and a devoted cat gopher. Her favorite things include music of all kinds, really truly, and taking long naps with nothing but the open road and a saucy rhythm section. She's been quoted in Glamour once. In her other lives, she is a professional editor, photographer, and musician. So we're really excited to get right into this. I want to welcome all of our virtual folks who are already hyped in the chat. I know y'all can't see it, but they are very hyped. We got our folks here at Pat's house tonight, which is great. So I'm just going to let folks know that whether you are online or here in person, there will be an opportunity to ask questions towards the end. So for our virtual folks, pop them in the Ask a Question tab or in the chat, and I will vocalize them towards the end. If you're physically here in the store with us, I'll bring you a mic around so that you can have a chance. So all our folks who just got here, come grab a seat and please give it up for LD.
All right, welcome. I'm going to dive right into the thing. So the description reads: a Chinese immortal and a French elf navigate romance, family loyalty, and workplace demands. What is missing from that? The most impressive piece to you?
What is missing? What didn't I put in there? What do you mean by what is missing?
It's very brief. That description. It's very I don't know, a little dry. You can zhuzh it up.
Okay.
What would you add?
Oh my god, and then suddenly all the words are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They only exist when they come out of my hands and not out of my mouth. I'm very sorry.
That only happens when you have a mic in front of you.
Yeah, so like I just, need to move this way. Kidding. It is really a story about the hard to swallow life lessons that you gotta learn, like it or not, and about who you are and what you want to make of your life, which is very broad, but that is an important question in the book, where one character asks another, who are you when you aren't here with me? All right, that brief question, got a brief answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Love it. Elle, which you named after me.
I wish.
Okay. See, I love brief answers. I mean, that means we're just not going to be here for terribly long.
No, this is like exactly the conversation style I love, because sometimes you get long questions,
Right.
which then means I struggle because I have to remember the first part of the question, and my memory only goes back like 15 seconds. So then I start answering the first part of the question, forget another part of the question, and then have to stop and go, what was the question?
Right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
We get each other.
Mhm.
I
I do.
understand these things.
I do.
Talk to me a little bit about the magic system.
All right, so when I was, this is gonna be a long answer, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Okay. It's all right. I'm not gonna cut you off. Take as long as you like.
So the primary magic system is xianxia-inspired, which is Elle's calligraphy magic. And xianxia, for those of you who are not nerds about wuxia, it is a subgenre of wuxia, which is the martial arts dramas, the stories of pugilists wandering the jianghu and taking up arms in service to their morals or for other people. Xianxia is kind of like that, but this time we get immortal. So they're not regular human folks. They are celestials, they're fairies, they are people who live a very long time, and they have magic. So normally in wuxia you don't get fire starting and no spells or anything like that. It's just all about your martial arts skill. And in xianxia you do finally get some magic and some really complicated spells, and always the sound effect of somebody snapping a bed sheet in the background. It's not wuxia with that going on here. I don't have a thing to snap.
I'm sorry. So when people do the onomatopoeia thing, I can hear it immediately. And it's completely inappropriate. I don't know where a child will be snapping right now, but it's snapping in my head, and it's distracting.
Just imagine every Jackie Chan movie ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I will now not be able to sleep. I will wake up to that.
Sometimes I randomly just when I can't sleep, I take my bed sheet and I'm like, because I'm weird.
Okay, all right, I'll let you have it.
Sorry,
all right.
the lights are in my eyes now. I'm not
There's-
crying out of emotions, I swear.
There's discourse, not specifically about this title, but about how we handle the use of multiple languages, specifically non-English languages, and specifically in SFF, when we talk about how you handle using Chinese characters within the text and what people should kind of go into the book expecting to get from that experience.
Expect no help. So I have, a couple hats that I wear. One of them is a writer, and another is an editor. And for a very long time, we italicized or made other non-English languages in the text, just to show you that, this is a non-English language. And Daniel Older I'm not emotional, I swear to God. Daniel Older had a great video about not italicizing Spanish anymore in his work, because it's not foreign to him and it's not foreign to the characters. And I've kind of just gone another step forward and said, all right, well, now you get everything in the character's original language, in their home language. And so Bitter Medicine has Chinese characters, untranslated, and pinyin, which is also untranslated. And it really depends. There's an afterword where I explain all of this. But it's not critical to the text. It's just more this is how people who are of multiple cultures will function. They go in and out of languages. Sometimes they think in a different language because it's easier. And it's whatever they reach for first, which is not always English.
I'm glad they let you do that in the debut, and you didn't have to earn that at some point.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure working with Jamie, because Jamie's just okay, but my editor is Malaysian, so she's very used to being in and out of English and everything else that's being spoken in Malaysia.
All right. I said keyword debut, so talk to us about how that's been going.
Well, debut it's been a long, strange trip. I think every single person's debut story is different. I see some sympathetic nods from other debut authors here in the crowd over there. I think it's actually gone really smooth, but aside from all the other things like reviews and stuff, which I admit right now I read all of them, but they don't typically bother me. I feel like it's because as an editor, I'm very able to step away from my work and just kind of look at it and oh, okay, well, that's her opinion. But the debut thing went really smoothly. Once my manuscript was accepted, I didn't have a whole lot of edits. I finished copy edits. It is what
I don't know how to feel.
It was very validating to me. I'm just saying. And I was like, oh.
I'm mildly crushed. I've never heard of anyone not having a whole lot of edits, especially in a first thing.
Yeah, my edit letter was actually an edit email. Yeah, and
Unheard of. I'm
and
unfamiliar with how this works. That never happens.
I did not like spend a day with my emotions on the floor, like crying or anything. I got my edit letter in, and I saw about 75% of it could be fixed immediately. So in 24 hours, I'd done and written, redone all those fixes. And then the last part took me like another month or so, and Jamie was very kind and gave me a deadline of like 60 days, and I hit it in a week.
I know you're not crying, but
I know.
I'm teary. Like I'm proud of you, and like you're like
I'm sorry, no,
you're
it's like,
listening, and I'm like, oh no, I'm misinterpreting. Yeah, it's fine. We were just talking about before you all came in, the lights are like very bright and direct, and so that's the source of the tears, not the rest of this.
and I wear hard contacts, so
Yeah.
like moving my eyes very suddenly causes me pain, like actual physical pain. So you can just say that I'm emotional later. As a woman, where was I? Yeah, and I completed this manuscript has been in this iteration essentially since December of 2021. I finished copy edits by then, so we've just been
It's just hanging out, wallowing a little bit.
yeah.
Okay.
And so I've had a lot of time and distance to just get used to the idea of this book being out there. I have moved on to the next project, as you're supposed to.
You're supposed to.
I'm not being callous or anything. You are supposed to move on to the next project, so you don't go nuts thinking about the current project. So you can be agonizing over your current project instead of the last one. It's a different kind of pain, but it's also the same. It's never not without pain, like this book.
Are you the type of writer to ever go back and actually read your stuff, or are you like me and you waited like the play once it's been published?
I mean, you kind of have to read it. So if you're unfamiliar with the publishing process, you have to read your book so many times. So many times. Everybody here who has written a book is so sick of their own book. And then like all the knowledge just kind of goes into a box and you forget about it. And so I've been far enough away from this book where I can actually pick it up and read it and be like, oh, who wrote this? I don't remember. So that's good. I laugh at my own jokes, which is like,
You have to.
You have to.
That's
I'm like, I wrote this for me, and if I'm not laughing at my own jokes, then what is the point? I think again that editorial distance, I was very able to just be like, okay, well I don't have feelings about this, and I hate to crush up anybody else's feelings about like editors, but it's better that we don't have feelings about the manuscript, so that we can see it more objectively, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I can read my own work.
Okay.
Yeah, but it takes me a while to get there. Unlike I cannot listen to my old recordings.
I will never do that either. I've been on podcasts and I'm just like, once the conversation's over.
I listened to the episode of the podcast I recorded, Breaking the Glass Slipper, and I listened to it like once, and I was like, okay, I don't think I have annoyed anybody else or like been misrepresenting my genre. And then Spotify being the way it is, it will autoplay once it connects to your Bluetooth. And so I got in my car and immediately there I was. Turn it off! The podcast is actually okay. It is former piano recordings that I cannot listen to. I have a master's in piano pedagogy. I had a master's recital that was recorded. That was 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. I still haven't listened to that recording. I have no desire to listen to that recording, and actually I lost it. I don't know where it is.
Okay, so that experience is my relationship with all of my own work, is that, leave me alone once it's out in the world. You enjoy it, and then I'll read the reviews and be upset about that later.
Exactly. Well, it's not yours anymore once it goes out into the world.
It's always mine. It has just matured, left the nest, and can handle itself.
Okay, well, that's a really good way of thinking about it.
But it is mine. It will never be yours. Just to clarify. Let's talk about adults as the age category
Okay.
that medicine is supposedly published for. The adult audience,
Grown-ups.
whether or not it is shelved on Goodreads or anywhere else as young adult,
Or
in
God
this
forbid,
bizarre
right.
phenomenon where books that are written specifically speculative literature, written by femme-presenting people, it always ends up on a YA list. So let's talk about how bitter medicine is super much not YA.
We have some kids in the audience, so like clap your hands over their ears. So there are. I mean, everybody on TikTok wants steamy books, so yeah, this is a steamy book. It's unapologetically steamy, and these are adults who are, you know, they may be a couple hundred years old, but maturity-wise, they're like mid-30s. And this is a comment that one of my characters makes, that, you know, the way that he matured, the speed of his maturing was so much slower than other humans. So when he was growing up, the other people thought that he was actually simple, because he was just slower than everybody else. He needed the time. So these are characters who have jobs and mortgages, and, you know, they worry about their families. They are almost senior level at, you know, the corporation. So really, really teenage stuff. You know, they wear suits, like bespoke suits, and they go to evening like galas, and I'm trying to think of anything else. They eat at Michelin-starred restaurants. You know, it's very much a teenager thing to do that. You know, it's all the rage now, apparently.
I was an incredibly bougie teenager.
See, I would have loved to eat at a Michelin-starred restaurant as a teen, but I couldn't afford a
Did
Michelin.
you know it's just like the Michelin tires and not
Yes.
like some French Michelin? That's not a thing.
Yes.
It's just people who review
Mhm.
restaurants.
Yeah, so
for a
sometimes-
tire.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, you think you're so fancy, you have 3 Michelin stars from the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
Yes. Take that wind out of your sails.
Or air and foam on your plate. But no, that's like the early 2000s.
Are we still doing that with the molecular gastronomy?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I don't know. Has anybody eaten at a Michelin star restaurant?
There's foams, there's things that have been pre-started, and
I think they've moved on to like things that are whipped. So
Okay.
they get like whipped cream like canister out, and they're like, this is like a pate whip.
oh god, I hate food so much. Okay, all right. Modern food scene is so pretentious. I'm super appreciative for the empanada situation we have going on.
You're
outside.
welcome. Yes, and if you guys didn't get any empanadas or hand pies, because it is pie day.
It is pie day.
So we got hand pies outside if they aren't freezing at the end, but we have little treat bags, so you can just shove your cold empanada or beef patty into a treat bag and take that home. But we have Jamaican beef patties and vegetarian samosas and black bean and cheese empanadas and chicken empanadas, all hanging out outside. Okay,
In the cold.
in the cold, but we have frigid.
There's like a frigid, weirdly cold Georgia air for this time of year.
It's very
I don't know
upsetting to
what's
me.
going on.
And then other swag things that that the people in person can get online, folks. There are little tea samples close to the front desk and candle samples. And we have, you know, a bunch of them. They just can't all fit on the table. So please, by all means, take some samples of tea and a candle. It's called Soft Boyfriend because it's for Luke. And we have a couple of them lying around.
If Elle had a candle fragrance, what would it be? What would this
You know what? This was something that I thought about because I kind of wanted her tea to evoke that too, and then I actually got what I asked for, and it wasn't what I wanted. So let's just imagine that Elle has a warm scent with a little hint of smoke because she's always in her workshop working, and there's like stuff blowing up in her workshop pretty much constantly, and paper. Like the warm smell of like fresh paper.
Okay, not paper factory, but
No.
all right, because no, it's different.
Yes,
It's not as endearing.
No, it's not at all, and it's incredibly wasteful.
Yes.
But like rice paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Your favorite element
Fire.
of the book? Of the book.
Oh. It's almost Aries season, guys. I'm just waiting for
I
Pisces.
appreciate that that's where you took it, but not at all.
I should have let you finish.
Yeah, so in talking about bitter medicine, the book that you have written
Okay.
and that debuted today, your favorite element of that?
I have a lot of favorite elements. You know what, today I'm gonna say it's the structure. And this is gonna be, this is a little nuts and boltsy for the crowd, but most
I
of
enjoy the nuts.
okay. So a lot of our books in Western canon, especially in sci-fi fantasy, are what are called 3-act books. And watch any Marvel movie that's a 3-act. So a lot of people expect the beats to happen or like the big events in the book to happen along that timeline, and that's not true. In Bitter Medicine, it is a 2-act because this is written after my love of operas and musical theater.
We have to talk about that later.
Okay.
Not in front of people.
Well, we have other musical theater lovers in here. Ashlyn, I see you.
Noted.
But Bitter Medicine splits very cleanly into 60% and 40% in these two very clear acts. And this has been running roughshod over some people in the reviews. So sorry, not sorry. That is the thing, and I really love it actually because I really love the drama of the end of the first act. You get this huge climax. The entire cast is on stage singing their hearts out. And then the curtain drops, and then you're left for 15 minutes to fight for a place in the bathroom line with everybody else.
That's everyone's favorite part.
And then you're like washing your hands, and the bell starts ringing. You're like,
Throwing elbows. And
yeah. And you're like, excuse me, let me get back in. And then the second act starts, and you're like, where are we?
I love that. Okay.
I do love it. It's like orchestras.
Yes.
Go to the symphony.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get off on that tangent a little bit later. But okay, so next thing, you said you're working on the next project. Can you hint at all about what that's like?
Okay, I will hint very, very, very strongly because editors, I have a book for you. All right, so the next project doesn't have a title. It's just got a project name. It's called Key and Veil, and it is completely different from this one. And it's like they ne'er the twain shall meet. It is a post-climate change adult science fantasy that I've copped to Assassin's Creed meets the 5th season meets the end of Serenity. So we are in a world that has been ravaged by climate crisis after climate crisis and the floods and the storms. And they live in a very stormy area where hurricanes will just spin up in like a matter of days and just wreck the entire coastline over and over. So we live in an area where these characters live in an area where a lot of the redundant knowledge has been lost. So the way our knowledge systems work is that we have a lot of redundancy built in so that if we lose one thing, it's not the end. And if we lose 10 things, it's also not the end. But this is in a world where we have had enough catastrophes to destroy a lot of that redundant information. So humans, some special humans have developed the ability to taste blood and then experience the memories, the epigenetic memories encoded in that DNA. And my main character, Key, she is an anthropologist. She works for the Museum of Human Memory, and her job is to go out into these wrecked areas and these remote areas and find via the use of a mushroom. So yes, she is hallucinating, and find memories that may be lost and may fill gaps in our knowledge and then bring them back to the Museum of Human Memory. This is a rather dangerous job because if she can taste memories and other people can taste memories, then that means she, as a person with memories, is a walking treasure trove of memories. So she has a partner, Vale, whose job is to guard her, and that is her entire job, is to be her guardian. However, if Key has an exceptionally bad dive into memories, her personality may change because she may be taken by the memory. And if it's a bad kind of change, then Vale's job is to kill her. Oh, yeah. And so we follow Key and Vale as Key hunts for memories, and she finds one that calls into question a lot of the foundations on which the world is built. And so this is a book about museum ethics, and I'm sorry Adina just left, and she's a curator. She's actually the one I was talking to about this book a long time ago when I was developing it. It's a book about being diaspora and about museum ethics, and when you go to an exhibit in a museum, who has made the decision to tell that story, and is it their story to tell?
And that will be ready like tomorrow.
I wish. It is out on submission right now, and this is month 8 of submission.
Okay.
Yep.
If I need to like start an imprint along with all of my other projects, I
I-
can pick that up.
Hey, this
Let
is
me know.
something that Elle and I actually have talked about
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
Yes, because we
We
don't
fought
see
and
any
see.
reason why Atlanta can't be a publishing hub. Just putting that out there. We have
We're
the
all
infrastructure.
down here. I
Yes,
don't understand.
it's not hard to
I
get
blame
to this
New York.
airport. Yeah.
I live New York, the entire state.
Yeah, but the thing
It's all
is,
their
hold
fault.
on though, like, if New York publishing people think they can come down, don't, Atlanta's full.
It's full and the roads can't handle it.
Right.
And
We've had 2 highways collapse, like Atlanta's
I'm
full.
so tired. All right, your work as an editor, since you keep kind of touching on that a bit, what is something you are hoping kind of lands across your desk?
I copy edit for the most part, and so I will take whatever comes my way. I work for Macmillan and Hachette, so they send things onto my desk, and for the most part, I'm not allowed to talk about them until they get published. Sorry, I have a bunch of books coming out this year that I can't talk about, but one of them was my favorite project so far has been a book out of Erewhon, and that's Folklore by Angela Young-Her.
I
And
know things about that book.
it's so good.
It is.
It's ridiculously good. It's literary speculative fiction.
Yes.
Yes. And when he's sitting here in the front row, and I like shoved this book at her. Please read it. Please read it. It's incredible. The prose is incredible. The storyline is just so good. It's really hard to describe. Yes, but my job when I was doing that job was part of copy editing. In fact, it involves fact checking.
Right.
And so here I am, not a Swedish speaker at all.
That is a thing.
Yeah, and I had to go check the Swedish in the book because she referenced real places in Sweden, and I was like, I'm so sorry because I know that you live in Sweden and like you're married to a Swede, but like Google says this is spelled this way. So like Control-Alt-M, AU, intentional, question mark.
All right.
And then she actually DM'd me later. She's like, "Thank you for catching that. I can't believe I spelled it wrong."
Well, there you go. Thanks, Google. Feels uncomfortable to say. All right. Are we ready to pivot to questions, or
Yeah, I don't know what time it is.
is
So.
it 8 on the East?
I mean, if we want to keep talking about copy editors and the relationship.
Are you super excited to talk about copy
I
editing
actually
and your
really like
relationship
copy
to the
editing.
stories that come out, or?
Well, by the time a manuscript lands on my desk, it's already been developmentally edited. So that means a different editor has looked at it for like the plot and the character development and all like the really big moving pieces. And then my job is to make sure the grammar is correct and that the timeline is correct and like things are consistent within the book. Some things are intentionally inconsistent, which I feel like I'm really good at catching that, so I don't ask about it. But then sometimes it's like, your character is pregnant, but she's been pregnant for 45 weeks. So I just wanted to make sure that's okay. And when you're copy editing, you kind of develop an editor voice like AU, is it okay that your character has been pregnant for 10 months? Just checking. But I realized that there's no way to write these comments without making authors mad, because either it is, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed, I'm so glad you caught that, or my copy editor is really raking me over the coals. And I've seen both, and thankfully, it hasn't been in a space where I copy edited somebody in my debut group and they're complaining about their copy edits. But I have like the really weird, it's not a misfortune, but it's just like the really, really weird circumstance of a lot of my authors end up tweeting about their copy edits, and I just find their copy edits. So I copy edited Alex Harrow's novellas, and she tweeted about her copy edits, and I was like, hey, it's me!
Did she not know you were there?
I copy edit under my real name.
Ah.
Yes, definitely fly under the radar here.
Yeah.
If I can plug another book while I'm sitting here, Moses Otomi's Lies of the Ojungo comes out in 2 weeks. It's a novella out of Tor, and it is an African-inspired, it's like a parable almost, and it's really, really good.
I don't know. I've been like all over the place. I don't think I knew.
Okay.
And I follow Moses, so I don't understand.
Well, it's fabulous. Like, sometimes I feel so lucky to have this job because I read amazing books, and like halfway through this manuscript, I was like, I had to like get up and like throw pens across the room or something like that, because it's so like the craft of this book is incredibly good, and also like, how did you make me feel this way in like under 100 pages? I hate you.
It's a fun story.
Yeah.
I pre-ordered it.
I pre-order things all the time and I forget, and then I end up with 2 copies. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. And I just knew, so now I gotta get it changed to the correct address. So thank you for that.
you're welcome.
For plugging that.
You're welcome. I'm
I
here to
would
serve.
Excellent. All right. Anything else you want to say about your copy editing?
Yeah, I know this is about like the writing. So, you want to talk about writing and how painful that is?
Who writes it?
You
Time.
do. You do. L.D.
Who
Lewis,
has the
LeVar Burton short story award winner.
Yeah, we just want to thank it.
Yeah, you just wanted them.
Amador.
I'm not. Yeah. And then, are we allowed to talk about the other thing?
No, because they have. Okay, so she knows something that you're not allowed to know yet, but it's super cool, and you will find out soon.
It is so cool. It is so cool,
It's a super neat anthology, and that's probably the most I can say about it.
Okay, well, just be ready to hit retweet whenever you do talk about it.
Yeah, as long as Twitter still exists.
I was listening to your long list of accomplishments, and like honestly, Elle is such a force of nature in this industry. Like, she's wearing that smile because she does not like being seen, but I see you.
I think
She's
people
being
perceive.
capital perceived.
There's a camera, there's a microphone, there's lights, people looking at me.
So
But
we're
yes, it's mortifying to actually sit there and have your entire bio read. I completely forgot which one I sent, and I was like, oh, this is not the original.
No, ER was reading. I was like, dang.
Yeah.
I feel embarrassed now.
No, I'm just like a busybody dude. Like, that's all any of this ever came from. It's being nosy.
The two of us get along really well because neither of us sleep.
Yeah.
And we're always like moving.
Yep.
So
was
we
looking
always
for
gotta do stuff.
The next project.
Yes.
So, so the super secret thing that I can't talk about is the next thing coming out. For me, we have the Ignite Awards this fall. There's no Phaeton this year. I'm retiring from the magazine at the end of the year. So, Phi Literary Magazine, the Black Speculative Fiction, has been nominated for multiple Hugo Awards, and we won one once.
Yay!
In the Black Lives Matter year, if that tells you.
Okay, so this is a subject we can go on for a long time.
Very long
Oh my
time.
gosh, I only have 2 subscriptions that I pay for. One of them is Faya.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, but yeah, we've been around since 2016. There was a Black Speculative report that was put out that indicated that Black authors represented less than 2% of the field of being published in short fiction across like 60 some odd markets. And so there were a lot of excuses made as to why that was. We were not writing well enough collectively to be published anywhere, or we didn't exist in volume, or we had this chip on our shoulder and we just weren't submitting anywhere because we're angry Black people.
This is,
Yeah.
false.
All of it false. Nobody has since apologized, but the trophies speak for themselves. But yeah, I've been around for 7 years, and so I'll be retiring at the end of this year. Yeah, I don't know what the future holds for whoever's running it, but it's still one of my business. I'm tired.
I suggested that she take a break, and she's like, nah.
Yeah, I have to. I'm tired. Like I said, it was that we built a convention that was also Hugo nominated. We started an awards thing that's probably gonna go on forever and inevitably kill me.
Wait till the boxes arrive.
Oh my god.
Well,
Yeah, I package and ship all the trophies myself, so.
Elle's always working.
Yeah, and I have a larger house now. I'm moving this week. I just came here from moving. And so I have a bigger house to put the boxes in when they come. But yeah, I have nothing to talk about writing wise because my life has been consumed with everything literary that is not writing. And there are so many other things to literary world that is not writing. And I gotta cut all of that crap out, dude. I don't wanna. I got into this as a writer, and so everything you heard, in the bio, it kind of came secondary and ended up working out really great. But also, I'm just ready to get back to writing. So
Every single time we get together for lunch, I'm like, so you're writing? And she's like,
yeah,
next question.
that's happened a couple times now, and the answer is always no.
Yes, the next question. I'm like, you have a manuscript. You know,
I have like a couple of novels I'm supposed to be getting out.
Novels.
Submission. I don't know. I don't think my novella counted as a debut.
It's a debut novella.
Yeah, but I want the novel. I got into this to do gigantic what is it? Door stoppers.
Door stoppers.
Book
Yeah.
stoppers. Sure. Door
That's what they call
stopper.
my house. The book arrives at my house and then stops.
Yeah, that's all. That's what I got here to do, and I ended up doing all this other crap.
Listen, Suni just announced his debut novella from Tor today. So if Suni can have a debut novella, you have a debut novella.
Okay. All right. Well, that was 2018, so enjoy. Everyone in Shadows. It's super short. It's like 66 pages, and a lot of people die in it. It's great. It's got
But not
great
like
there.
a lot of people die like, regular body count or like Last of Us body count.
What is it, like 9 people? 9 people died.
In a cast of how many?
Like 10.
So that is Last of Us body count.
Pretty much. Yeah, the one killed the other 9.
Okay. Well, when I was writing my book, I am also fond of killing characters, and prior to this one, I would just routinely kill characters because I was like, that is so painful. I love it. I want to make everybody cry.
Like, this would be fun to see on the stream, right? Like the squelching and the.
No, not the squelching, just like, everybody grieving, like, oh, so sad, this other character died. And then I made a rule for this book, which is nobody dies. And then I was like, and I got to a point and I was like, wait, I'm not allowed to kill this character. Oh, and then suddenly you have another story to tell.
Do you have a folder or something like on your desktop where you store all of the stuff that gets cut out of the manuscript to kind of like repurpose and use later?
This is where the writers are really going to cry because I'm a chaos writer. If it's gone, it's gone. If I delete it, it's done.
That's the end of this interview.
Thanks everybody for coming out today.
That's terrible.
No,
Why
it's
do you
not.
just roll the words like that?
I mean, because I think I'm so clever, and I just delete the words and I write something else, and as it turns out, it was very similar to the thing that I just wrote. And after this has happened like 4 or 5 times, I was like, you know what? Like, embrace chaos.
So did you write an alternate version of this somewhere where you did kill somebody?
Actually, no. This has always been the way that this book is. That's the concept as it was, brought.
Okay, so then what I'm gonna need you to do is write the version in which the person died.
Well, we're gonna have a novella as a book.
And then just give that to me specifically.
But no, but you don't want that one because this is like the fan favorite character.
I like the one.
The character disagrees.
But if they're dead, it doesn't matter.
But they're an immortal, so they can get reborn and come back.
Oh, that is fair.
Because you can, in fact, if your body dies in xianxia, but your soul lives on, you can just wait thousands of years and then reincarnate. Yeah. And you don't know what you're gonna do. Yeah. Anything goes in this. So I'm like, what are the rules? There are no rules. Like, this rock cultivated enough energy to birth the Monkey King. So yeah, my character can just come back.
That went like left super quick and came right back.
That's the way I think.
I appreciate
yeah.
it. Yeah, I learned that over our lunches. anybody here have any questions? For Mia, preferably.
I'll bring the mic to you. Who wants to kick us off? All right. It's for accessibility.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
You can.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, I'm an illustrator. Does your publishing company just have illustrators, or did you just pick one, or what? Because I'm trying to get into book illustration.
I'm with a very small publishing company and they do have an in-house artist, but they also do contract art out. And I think the best way, speaking as a non-artist, is just have your portfolio available. And I think a lot of people get picked up with the portfolio day events on Twitter and stuff like that.
My agent actually represents a lot of illustrators, like a lot of them.
Insurance.
Like most of her list, I think, is illustrators. So if you look her up, it's Jenna Zantian at the Zantian Literary Agency. She's on maternity leave right now, but give her a couple months.
Okay.
Of course.
Yep, pass it on down.
Hello.
Hi.
So how much research did you do before writing the book, or was it just purely all imagination?
I
Because
can't. Day in, day out. We pants. That is a lifestyle. And then we edit. And then it's no longer pantsing. And then, once you're done with I should define the term. When you say you pants, you write by the seat of your pants.
Right.
You totally make it up as you go. And then eventually you get to the end of the book and then go, can this actually happen? So yes, there was a lot of research that went into this. There were multiple consultations with people who are way better at Chinese than I am about the names in the book, because Chinese names are very difficult to just make up, and oftentimes you have to talk to elders in your family or a fortune teller to make sure that the name that you want to give your kid, or any possible names that you're going to give your kid, is the correct name. It's not an unlucky name, or it's not going to insinuate something you don't want it, accidentally insinuate something. So yeah, I had to consult with friends on that one. For Elle's name, she has her surname that we couldn't just pick a random surname, because that would just give away the entire plot. If you're a Chinese person who can read Chinese, if you see that surname, we're like, oh, okay, the god of medicine, cool. And then the plot is totally over. So we needed a name that would invoke the god of medicine, but wasn't directly the god of medicine. And then we needed a generational name, which is the first part of the name in a lot of Chinese families. I see one of you is nodding. This doesn't work that way in Korean too. Mm-hmm. So I needed the generational name, and then finally the given name, and we had options, lots of options. And then that was just a name research. And then for Luke, I had to make sure that everything, that his entire background, it could actually happen. So he was born, I said 1791 in the interview the other day. I was wrong, sorry. He was born in closer to 1780 something. And that was, so I had to make sure, were they speaking French in Alsace at the time, and were they still Catholic? Had the purge happened yet? And is his name actually a name that you could feasibly run across in France at that time? So I spent many hours on the Basran website looking at baptismal records and exercising my ecclesiastical Latin, trying to read this hodie. I'm today on the 17th of December, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, that's just part of the research.
So we have a virtual question from Sarah, who asks, will there be queer elements in this book?
Oh, so many. This is a book that flies the rainbow flag all over everywhere. We've got gay representation, lesbian representation, we have trans rep, and there's a polycule, a hilarious polycule in this book.
One of the things that we always think about at Charis is where your book should ideally sit in relation to other books, whether that's on a social media post, today's New Title Tuesday, so we're putting your book in a post with other posts, but with other books on the post, but also on the shelf. So in your like ideal world, whose books do you want to be on the shelf with?
Ooh, this is a tough question because this gets really close to the question of what are your comps
Right.
and your comparable or competitive titles to get more nuts and boltsy about it. And that was the difficulty of pitching this book because there was really nobody to stand next to. So in the neighborhood, in our vicinity, I would, if you want to talk about me and Ken Liu and Fonda Lee, then like go right ahead. But I'm way less serious than the two of them. And
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, because that's probably where I would have put you too, but agreed.
Do you feel like there's any gender stuff around that? Like they are looked at as like hard sci-fi. Did you get any of that kind of pushback? Or?
no, I don't think so. But you know, it was trying to find the right niche for this was difficult because there's, you know, it's half romance, and it really does hit the 50-50, like 50% fantasy and 50% romance, and so it. A lot of people think that they like cross-genre books, but like, no, they actually don't. So we had to figure out like where are we going to thread the needle over here. So right now, it kind of stands on its own, but I mean, I could always reframe that to I'm the one who's going to get comped.
Right.
Be the comp. Yeah.
That's inevitable. Yeah, that happens so frequently with a lot of different organizations, is that there are so few comp titles, or the works that you're submitting end up having to be similar to what's already out there in order to have that comp title kind of asset. So I'm looking forward to you becoming the comp.
Thank you.
That's very cute. I didn't even think about that.
So yes, for all the authors out there who are finding their books hard to sell or like hard to compare to,
Right.
you will be the comp one day.
I don't know how to word this, but it seems like you really push the box that typically books are in. You talked about the 2 acts, about the Chinese, language being written there without translation, and also even about your genre. Did you do it intentionally to push the envelope, or was it just naturally that's how it came about?
I think it's a yes to both. This is the book that I wrote without any intention of other people reading it. So I just kind of went and was like, what do I like? Let's follow the id. Let's write whatever the lizard brain wants. And then on revision, I was like, okay, then we can definitely refine this. And then the 2 act came out, and I don't like forcing my story into places it doesn't want to go. So the 2 act is the best for it. And that wasn't necessarily revolutionary for me because I deal in 2 acts all the time, and music we have binary form, and playing 100 or so minuets, just kind of hundreds and hundreds of minuets, or attending symphonies or watching Mozart 2 act operas like Don Giovanni, which is what I was looking at for this book. So for me, it didn't seem like I was pushing the envelope. And the code switching is just very true to how I live my life, and I think how a lot of people live their lives. And I was like, I want the verisimilitude in there. Why not? So it just kind of like mushroomed into like this thing where it's like, oh, now we have a hard time with finding comp titles. Yeah.
One of our online folks asked, what series did you binge while writing, if any?
To do your comp titles, you have to research. So you have to read so many books, and I actually really love urban fantasy. So I'm gonna go and plug Haley Turner's Soulbound series because I tore through those books, and they're not comps for me. Except for the part where she brings in a lot of mythology from around the world. And I was like, that's totally cool. So I binge read those. There's 7 books in the series, and the new one drops and you're like, you don't go to sleep. You just read it, stay up all night and read. I read a lot of romance. So Alyssa Cole was already was my teacher in this romance class that I took. And I was like, okay, let's read every single Alyssa Cole book. And then Courtney Milan, let's read every single Courtney Milan book. Actually, I think my first romance, like, that I really sat down to read was a Courtney Milan book. It was her contemporary romance. Courtney, can you write more of those, please? I'm begging you.
Didn't she say something really nice today on Twitter?
She did. She did. I'm also one of her editors, so I don't copy edit for her. That's Savannah. So yes, I binge read a lot of romance.
You mentioned humor and like you want to crack yourself up. Is there anybody whose humor you look to or you really admire?
Oh, my husband. He's just sitting right there behind Brandon.
Nice.
Yeah, there were some times in the dialogue where I got really stuck, and I like workshop the dialogue sometimes, and Brian would step in with much better dialogue than I could come up with because he's very quick. Yeah.
Any other questions? Can you write off going to the symphony as research? I wish.
I have,
I was hoping. You had my hopes raised for a second.
well, yeah, I mean, if I write a book about the symphony, then yes, I will write that off. Right now, I am in the beginning stages of another book, and it involves a lot of sewing. So yeah, that's all on the business credit card. I'm writing that off.
Love that.
You have another question? Yeah.
It's not a question, but I just want to let you know it was really special for me when you said you wrote in Chinese, because literature was my love in high school. And I asked my literature teacher, I just want to let you know this. I asked her, hey, what if I write a book in Konglish, which is Korean and English? And she said, that will never happen. So to hear you say that, it's like my dream come true, So thank you for doing that. I think that matters so much.
See, this is why RIP matters,
Right.
because it is all possible. It's just words. Like, we can't break it. So why not why not allow all this stuff?
All right. We are good. To wrap up, Mia, thank you so much for letting
Thank
me
you,
be here.
Elle.
This was. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you too. She does this every single time.
I do, and this is our dynamic. But I love being here with you for this. I love Bitter Medicine. I have not finished it yet.
Okay, no spoilers, y'all.
Well, I mean,
Some people have read
it just came out today. You can't have all read it already.
There's the June here who has read every single draft.
Well, I mean, that's a good job.
I said to Brian, like, I want the Ursula K. Le Guin husband treatment. Which is, she would write drafts and hand them over to her husband,
Yep.
and his job was to say, this is wonderful, honey, and then hand it back.
Yeah. So keep doing that.
It's good to set expectations.
Where should everyone viewing here and elsewhere know where to find you?
I am on Twitter prior to Implosion, ?
Yes.
At It's a Mia, which is, see, this is where I crack myself up because it's a pun.
Yes.
It is
I actually giggled about that on the way.
Oh, you did?
To the car, yeah. I pulled it and I was like, oh, it's a Mia, because it's on your car.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it is it's an anagram, I guess, of Mia Tsai. And it is also, it is me, it's a
Right.
Mia, and also the Mario
Yes.
thing, which has been very funny because some people on the internet who think they can try to get me are like, oh, you're appropriating bad Italian accents. So it's a Mia on Twitter. And you can find me at mia.tsai.books on Instagram. I am nominally on TikTok, but I don't plan to stay on TikTok. At the same username, and of course there's my website, and you can sign up with for my newsletter on the website, which is like the newsletter is the only time I ever talk about what music I'm listening to. So each newsletter,
Bookstopper episode.
bulletin, journal entry of the of liner notes, which is the newsletter name, mailing letter I call it, has a list of things that I'm listening to at any given time, and then you may get some weird thoughts, like how does editing and prog rock go together? Yeah.
Would you like to expound on that?
Do we have the time?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I was thinking a lot about how prog rock, one of prog rock's hallmarks is the changes, right? If you look at, let's take like one of the most famous prog rock songs of all time, Rush's Tom Sawyer.
Okay.
Where we have, what song were you thinking about?
No, go ahead. Carry on.
Where you have these really clearly delineated sections where they shift from, where they shift time signatures, you move from 4 to 7, which is like so rad. And then many other sections, and then like prog rock that's coming out today, where it's also become math rock, where you have section after section, and they're all like disparate. And sometimes they go together, and sometimes they don't. And it's a question of editing, like for me, like how can I approach writing a book or editing a book that has all these disparate elements in it and like make it cohesive? And where does it work for me in prog rock, and where does it not work for me? Because there are some songs that just completely do not work. The shifts are too strong, and so in mulling it over, I think you have to just carry one thread over. When you change your section, you have to have one thing that will unite from section to section. It doesn't have to go through the entire song. It just needs to thread
Right.
from section to section.
Okay.
And so
I don't do so much with prog rock, but music in general, keeping that through line, like
Mhm.
running from scene to scene.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So I think about music a lot, obviously, like, the day job, I'm a musician. So when you are changing sections, you have to keep the theme or the motive, or you keep, the key or your tonal center, and then you can move away. Just to stitch it together, you don't have to stay there the entire time. And so I was thinking, with short story collections, how do you edit for the anthology or a short story collection, and you just carry your little thread through. Just prog rock thoughts.
Okay, so back to wrapping up. Was there anything else? We got your socials, we got your website, we got your newsletter. All right, I'm LD Lewis. I'm on Twitter and barely on Instagram at Elle the Villain, ELLE. My website is gonna be back up tomorrow. I just haven't had the time. That's LD Lewis Writes. Sometimes, or I used to. But yeah, I'm mostly just shouting. My bio was out of date.
Oh,
I'm now the director of programs and operations at Lambda Literary.
well, that clarifies something, because we were like, we thought you had a different job, but, I wasn't gonna interrupt myself.
That's me.
Look at her doing stuff.
That's it. So we're gonna be working together.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So while I'm here, I also edit I'm a submissions editor at Giganotosaurus, which is a sci-fi fantasy magazine online, and it's free to read. We publish 12 stories per year with a word count between 5,000 and 25,000 words. It's a very large swing, but only one story per month, and you can read it without having to pay for it. And we are also, I can't remember if we were Nebula nominated, or I think it was Nebula's for one of our pieces last year, and who knows about this year. And
I just learned that it's Jigga and not Giga though.
Oh, I noticed that, that's how they say it on Dinosaur Train. If you don't have kids,
I
then
love Dinosaur Train.
I love Dinosaur Train too. There is only one song in that entire show that consistently makes me cry, and it's "I'll Always Be Your Mom" when Mrs. Tyrannical sings it. I know it's really cheesy. Now you know things about me you didn't want to know. But yes, I'm a submissions editor for Giganotosaurus, and I'm also special guest editing the Wuxia and xianxia issue of Strange Horizons, which will be up in May. So be on the lookout for those things.
Check those things out, y'all, and check out Bitter Medicine right now from Charis. If you're watching virtually, you can buy the book right now by clicking this teal link at the bottom of the screen. It really does help us when you buy your event books from us. If we have any left tonight, we will get you a signed copy. If not, we'll get one in the mail to you quickly. But we would love for you to just click this teal button right now and support Mia's work. It is always exciting to have a launch day book in the mail to you. So thank you all so much for being with us. Thanks for your enthusiasm in the chat. We really appreciate it. I know that Mia's going to enjoy looking back at this when she gets home. So we're going to say goodnight to y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.